Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory. I am Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers, and Jack, the Diamondbacks won their opener against the Boston Red Sox, officially pulling back to 500 for the first time since mid-July. They are 71-71 at this point in the year, and it was a fun game, Jack. Some back and forth action, a really impressive throw by Blaze Alexander. Corbin Carroll hitting a big 3-run homer late that sort of put the game on ice. This Diamondbacks team continues to play pretty good baseball.
It was a pretty electric atmosphere at the stadium. There were over 39,000 people in the stands, a lot of Red Sox fans, and they were loud early, but the D-backs managed to quiet them down a bit. Then late, they got in the game, they got noisy again, but D-backs fans also kind of stood up and protected their turf a bit, and the team gave them reason to cheer. And it was a really fun night, I think, and it was followed by a throwback concert with Flo Rida, and Flavor Flav even made an appearance. I saw people saying, "Well, I so much wanted to feel like I was in college again." So it was it was a fun atmosphere for everybody. I think everyone had a good time, except for maybe a few Red Sox fans.
Yeah, which it sounded, at least from watching on the broadcast, Jack, it sounded like there was no shortage of Red Sox fans in attendance at Chase Field on Friday night. Will be interesting to see if it's like that the whole weekend. But I mentioned it earlier, Jack. One of the biggest maybe inflection points in this game was Blaze Alexander gunning out a runner at home plate. Of course, we figured that this would be a strength for Blaze moving into center field. We have not seen all that many outfield arms in recent years in Arizona who are well above average exactly, but Blaze Alexander certainly in that category, and he showed it off in this game.
Yeah, I mean, we were waiting for it. We kind of knew something like this had the potential to happen. Blaze even talked about, I haven't done that yet. I haven't thrown anybody out yet. I'm looking forward to it. He spoke about after the game when he was a kid growing up, watching YouTube videos because he was bored. And he would focus in on the collections of great outfield throws. And he started dropping names like, Vlad Guerrero and Roberto Clemente, and of course Ichiro, who always gets included in that, despite the fact that that throw that always gets shown is basically deep second base. But Clemente's was like from the warning track all the way on a fly to home plate, that kind of stuff. So he was really excited about the fact that he had the opportunity to make the throw.
It was really impressive. I think it was clocked at 95.4 miles per hour after the fact, which honestly wasn't as high as I thought it would be. I know it seemed like it wasn't as high as Blaze thought it was going to be either. He was a little bit disappointed maybe by that reading, but he also said in his post-game interview, "I'm going to have some 100s here before too long." So, and we've seen Blaze. It's been years now that we've been talking about Blaze Alexander and the arm that he has. Of course, we've been thinking he would be showing that off on the left side of the infield as opposed to doing it in center field, but certainly can be an asset for him out there as well. And another aspect of this game for Blaze, Jack, is that he drew 3 walks at the plate, and he continues to evolve offensively as a player that can definitely hold his own against major league pitching.
It was really good to see. I mean, he fouled off a couple of pitches that were maybe hittable, but then he didn't go and chase. And that's the second time in his career he's drawn 3 walks. The only other time was last year at the end of April against the Dodgers. And it really speaks to his maturation as a hitter. He's coming into his own. There's still things that he still needs to cut down on the swing and miss overall. But certainly, there are some underlying improvements that are actually starting to show up in the box score. There was one other play that he made. There was a line out to center field, and I thought that play was impressive from the standpoint of he didn't overrun the ball. Ball was smoked like 110 miles an hour to center field. Had a slight tail on it, towards right field. It wasn't straight at him, but it was pretty straight. And, he came in pretty quickly. He got a good jump. And my initial reaction was, oh, no, don't overrun that ball because then it'll go all the way to the wall. But he made the adjustment really quickly, just caught the ball slightly above his head and and got the ball in. So little things like that really stood out to me because the dead at you hard line drive to center field, that can be one of the trickiest balls to play for a guy without a lot of experience at center. So good to see. I mean, he's making a really good transition. They did talk about he talked about and the fact that he was a little high on the throw, and
Right.
Mac had Dave McKay said, "Hey, you got to get that throw down a little bit." But overall, just a really good performance by him.
Really impressive stuff there across the board, and that was when this game was still very close. It was a 2-1 game in the top of the third inning, I believe, when that happened.
Right.
And then the Diamondbacks went on to extend their lead. They were up 6-1 by the middle innings, and then things got a little bit interesting late, Jack, as Bryce Jarvis entered the game in the eighth inning, was really struggling to throw strikes, gave up some hard contact as well. Suddenly, a 6-1 game turned into a 6-5 game. And then, as I alluded to earlier, Corbin Carroll really put the game away with his 30th home run of the season. He now has 24 stolen bases as well. I think 30-30 is very well within reason for him. And I know you talked to him after the game, Jack, and he was talking about how this team has a similar feel to the team from 2023, where there aren't a lot of expectations on these young players, and the Diamondbacks are able to just kind of go out there and feel like they're playing with house money, and it's worked pretty well for them here these past couple of weeks.
It was pretty funny hearing him talk about being the player with the most experience. He thought that was really strange. A couple of
Yeah.
weeks ago, he was sitting on the bus and he's like, wait a minute, I'm the one that has more experience now. And we've got all these young guys up here. And he said they were playing without any expectations. They're just going out there each and every day trying to win a ball game. I think that's been a very much a signature of Torey Lovullo's teams is they do play better with low expectations. Similar to 23, they went into that postseason playing with house money. I mean, we all wrote that story or said that on air. I think we all use that phrase, house money. They're not there yet as far as that's concerned, but the fact is that they're playing aggressive, hard baseball. They know there are no illusions about what the standings represent. They realize how tough it's going to be. And it's cliche, but they're taking it one game at a time, one foot and step in front of the other. But Corbin's comments, if you want to see them for yourself, you can always go and check our Twitter account at D-backs on SI. It's over there. And it's pretty interesting comments by him.
Well, we don't want to dwell too much on this Friday game because we figure that by the time some of you get around to listening to this or watching this, the game probably is a day or two old at that point. But we did want to talk about Eduardo Rodriguez here, Jack, because he has strung together back-to-back quality starts for the first time in his Diamondbacks career, which is pretty remarkable that it's taken as long as it has. But he looked really good out there in that game on Friday. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, of course, against his former team in the Boston Red Sox, and a team that is pretty good offensively. And of course, Erod pitched well against the Dodgers recently as well. So some positive signs here coming from him.
Yeah, I mean, there was some hard contact early. I remember looking up like 4 of the first 8 balls put in play against him were 99 miles an hour or harder, and then there were 4 softer balls hit in play. And of course, that Blaze Alexander throw to end the third inning, that was really the turning point for him. And then fourth, fifth, and sixth innings, he was very efficient. I think he just walked one batter in the fourth and didn't give up any. Retired the last 6, 8 batters he faced. So, he really settled down nicely, threw strikes, mixed his pitches well, got some swing and miss. So, kudos to Erod. I mean, it was his second straight quality start. As you said, this is exactly what they need from him. And it was important because getting 6 full in early on, it didn't look like he was going to go 6 innings. Looked like he was going to be stuck at, have trouble to get out of the fifth. When we looked at his pitch count, but then he got very
Right.
efficient, and that was key because you want to limit the amount of exposure. I will say again, the Diamondbacks are second in Major League Baseball in innings pitched per game started. They came into the game with 5.5 against a Major League average of 5.2, and only the Philadelphia Phillies with 5.7 innings pitched per game started are more than the Diamondbacks. So Erod going 6 innings helps feed into that. The D-backs also came in with a 40% quality start rate. That was sixth best in the major leagues. So pretty interesting. I mean, overall, their starters ERA, a lot of those quality starts are the bare minimums of 6 and 3. But the bottom line is they're getting more innings out of their rotation than all but one team in Major League Baseball. And that's a good thing when you have the bullpen issues that the D-backs have had this year.
I guess that's maybe more of an indictment on the quality start stat. That
Yeah.
if being near the top of the league in quality starts doesn't necessarily mean that you have a dominant rotation. But you make a good point about the innings pitch side of things, that maybe people aren't realizing that D-backs are actually getting quite a few innings from their starting pitchers. It's just that the quality of those innings has not been what you would hope for. Elsewhere in this game, Jack Ildemaro Vargas, certainly should mention his name. He went 2 for 4, hit a big home run, 3 runs batted in there. He has a 722 OPS and has been pretty solid for the Diamondbacks. I mean, just kind of coming in and filling a need for them. He's been really everything you could have hoped for there. And then Geraldo Perdomo had a big day. We're going to talk about more with him in a second. I guess we should also mention, Jack, that Jordan Lawler has continued to put some pretty good swings on the ball. He had a ground rule double to the opposite field in this game, and then he hit a sacrifice fly, which was pretty close to being a grand slam. He was maybe, I don't know, 5-10 feet away from that. So good to see with Jordan Lawler as he continues to try to build confidence at this level.
The double came on a changeup, by the way. So
Now,
it wasn't a fastball.
it's not a breaking pitch, but it's an off-speed pitch. So
yeah. The other thing, with Vargas, a little mea culpa here. I was being snarky pregame, speaking to our buddy Alex Weiner, and I said, I can't believe that their DH is Ildemaro Vargas. So, of course, the moment the ball didn't reach the stands, and Alex was poking me with his pen.
It was quite a swing too. I mean, he knew it. Like, he knew it right off the bat.
Yeah.
A big 3-run home run took what was a 2-1 game and made it a 5-1 game at the time. And then, of course, Corbin hit another big home run later. So a big win for the Diamondbacks here as they pull to 500. And we're going to talk more later in the show about where they stand in the wild card picture. Things are getting interesting, sort of. And we're going to talk more about that later in the episode. But first, it is time for our DraftKings Player Spotlight. Well, Jack, I mentioned it briefly there. Geraldo Perdomo had 4 hits in the game on Friday as well. And he just continues to do the thing. I know he's had a couple weeks now where offensively things have been a bit leaner for him. But on the whole, it's still been a really, really impressive season for Perdomo overall, as he is hitting at 287 on the year with an 837 OPS. Of course, he homered in this game as well, helped the Diamondbacks build that early lead. And Perdomo now is sitting at 90 runs batted in for the season.
It's just amazing that he's able to keep pulling back out of it. Every time he starts to go into what looks like a slump, he pops back up and starts hitting well again. And I think that goes back to his plate discipline, his ability to avoid swinging at pitches out of the zone. And, he was walking more than he strikes out, but also, he doesn't really chase, and he fouls off a bunch of pitches when he needs to, and he stays in an at bat. And those are qualities, that plus the ability to dunk the ball in there and continually defy quality of contact metrics. That allows him to be the player that he is on offense, that he's grown into. At the same time, he's at 5.6 baseball reference WAR, 5.5 Fangraphs WAR. I mean, he's right there with the top 3, amongst the top 3 shortstops in baseball, along with Bobby Witt Jr. and Trey Turner. And that's just something that we didn't expect to be saying on September 6th.
Yeah.
So this is well beyond the hot streak. He's established himself as one of the top shortstops in the game. Full stop.
I'll also add that while he has outperformed those underlying metrics, there's not that significant of a gap. At times in the past, the gap has been really big. But if you want to go by WOBA and xWOBA, he's at a 365 WOBA to a 357 xWOBA. So he's slightly outperforming the quality of contact, but not all that much. And as a guy who's a very pull heavy hitter, we've talked about this in the past, Jack. Baseball savant, those numbers tend to underestimate hitters who pull the ball a lot, especially hitters who pull the ball in the air. And that's something that Perdomo has been good at for a number of years now.
The xWOBA is actual walks and strikeouts plus quality of contact. So
Right.
it's the walks and strikeouts being so positive are what's keeping that gap from growing large between actual WOBA and xWOBA. WOBA is weighted on base average. It's just another way of looking at it's scaled to on base percentage. It takes into account all offensive events. It's similar in some ways. There's a metric called WRC plus, which is WOBA translated to the 100 scale, just like OPS plus. And I think he's in the 130s, 137, somewhere around there.
Just for reference, last year his WOBA was 317 to an xWOBA of 281. The year before that, 2023, it was 319 to an xWOBA of 275. So you're right, like walks and strikeouts are definitely propping up his xWOBA for sure. But the quality of contact has been so much better this year, and that gap is
For sure.
actually pretty small. So impressive stuff
That
from Perdomo. Yeah, what were you gonna add there?
I was just saying that home run he hit, like when you look at it fly, it just barely cleared the wall, but it
Right.
was just to the left of the 413 mark. It went 417 feet, and it was hitting right-handed. I mean, I was talking to Nick Pecora about this. I just never expected Geraldo Perdomo to be hitting so with so much power right-handed. That had always been a weak spot for him. It's truly stunning.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from Perdomo as his breakout 2025 season continues. Well, if you've never bet on baseball before, it is easy with our friends over on DraftKings Sportsbook. Of course, football season is here. We're talking first touchdown, fireworks, anytime, TD rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift at DraftKings. Every play is your next shot to win. And we're not going to talk about any football bets here because I don't think Jack or I would be remotely qualified to talk about that. But we do have something here in the baseball universe. Jack, what's on your mind here of something people could maybe do over at DraftKings?
I was looking at Ketel Marte and what the odds are for him to get at least one hit in this game. It's minus 250. So he's expected to be able to garner at least one hit in this game. You'd have to, bet 250 roughly to win 100. But it's notable that Ketel hits 299 against right-handed pitching, 291 against right-handed starters. And Lucas Giolito is a fly ball pitcher. Ketel hits 304 against fly ball pitchers. Now, it's also notable that Giolito has a 218 batting average against versus right-hand batters, left-hand batters, sorry. So I think that Ketel's in a pretty good spot here, despite that number. The other thing I really wanted to point out was he's had 3 walks in the last 2 games. 3 walks in his last 9 plate appearances. And we all know with Ketel, I mean, this is a gut feel because we watch him so much that whenever he starts taking a lot of walks, what happens next? He starts getting his hits. He did have 1 strikeout last night where it was he was fooled badly by a pitch and it wasn't a very impressive swing, but he was hitless in his last 6 at bats over the last 2 games. He's due for a hit or 2 or 3. So I just, knowing Ketel, he doesn't go too many hitless games in a row, and especially following walks. So I think that he's pretty strong bet to get at least 1 hit in this game.
Well, new customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, grab over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season starts now. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Well, Jack, to the Diamondbacks' credit, we have never really put to bed this conversation of, are they still possible? Is it still possible this team could make the playoffs? Are they still in this thing? And after winning this opener against the Boston Red Sox, the D-backs are now back up to 500 at 71-71. And maybe even more notably, Jack, the San Diego Padres just got swept by the Orioles and then got shut out by Kyle Freeland and the Rockies, if you can believe that, on Friday night. And so the Padres have now lost 5 games in a row. If we look at the standings here, Jack, things have definitely tightened up a little bit here, as this is not the right graphic. So I'm gonna grab the right one. Jack, I'm gonna let you talk.
Well, the key here right now is that suddenly the Padres and the Mets are tied. They have the same record. And that means that the D-backs, while they're 5.5 games out, the teams that they're chasing, they have to pass the Giants as well. But they have 6 games left against the Giants, and they have 3 games against the Padres. So to me, that's really the key, because all of a sudden now, some of your own fate is in your own hands. Not totally, of course. But whereas where you're chasing the Mets and you don't have the opportunity to play them again, if you're chasing the Padres and you end the season with 3 games against San Diego, in San Diego, that's significant. If you can get within 1 game, if you can somehow get within 1 game, you win 2 out of 3 in San Diego, you don't have to sweep, and you're in.
Yeah.
So that's, now it's no given that they'll get within 1 game. But to me, the most significant thing here is that suddenly it's the Padres they're chasing, not the Mets, because they play head to head. So there's more of an opportunity to control your own fate. Not totally, but just a smidgen more of hope. Now, you had said some things to me off air about the schedules, so I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, the Padres, they do play some good teams, but they also play the Rockies 6 more times in the next week plus, and then they have a 3-game series against the White Sox the weekend after that. So that's 9 games, Jack, out of their remaining 20, I believe it is, that are against the Rockies or the White Sox. So that doesn't exactly bode well. But again, they just got shut out by the Rockies on Friday night. They got swept by a Baltimore Orioles team that certainly has not had a good season. So, if they're not able to capitalize in those games that they have against those lesser teams, then, they still have 3 against the Reds and 3 at New York against the Mets. Those certainly could be a big opportunity for the D-backs, where that either the Mets or the Padres is going to lose on all 3 of those days. And then they have 3 against the Brewers and 3 against the D-backs to finish up the season. I imagine maybe Milwaukee won't have a ton to play for at that point. Be interesting to see how that plays out. But, I know you're saying if the D-backs can just get within 1 game, then you just have to take 2 out of 3. I'm just thinking from the standpoint of relevance. The D-backs don't have to be within 1 game entering that final series for those games to be meaningful. If the D-backs were within 3 games entering that final series against San Diego, then I don't think the odds are in their favor exactly. But if they swept that series, then they would make the postseason because they would have the tiebreaker at that point. So things have gotten a lot more interesting, Jack, just because the Padres have come down to earth so much.
Yeah, as we're talking, I'm going to look up San Diego's home and road record. That stadium, that environment is a tough place to play.
Yeah.
So
and they
let's
do
see,
play
where
13. They play 13 of their remaining, I guess it's 21 games at home. So the Padres do have a lot of home games left.
They are 43-25 at home and 33-40 on the road. So
Wow.
I don't think you can count on going into San Diego and sweeping. That's just we're talking pretty unrealistic stuff here in the first place, but let's not go crazy. So I think that, look, taking 2 out of 3 in San Diego is still really, really hard. They win 2 out of 3 at home, basically. They got a 632 win percentage. So essentially they win 2 out of 3 games at home. But in baseball, it's not too difficult to flip the script in any one game. Anything can happen, right? And sure, there's non-zero chances of going in there and getting a sweep. But I'll harken back to what Corbin Carroll said. The expectations are low. They should remain low until they get closer. But they're not dead yet. That's just the bottom line. Is they're not out of it because they're not out of it. They're not eliminated. And I keep vacillating back and forth, between they're dead, they're out of it, it's over. Oh, they still have a chance. I mean, I'm totally guilty here, guys. So I'll admit that.
Well, they keep oscillating between like 5 games out and like 7.5 games out. And when you're 7 or 7.5 in September, it's hard to really take things seriously. But when you're 5.5, I mean, that's still a big mountain to climb. But then when you play one of the teams that you're chasing for the final series of the year, then it's like, all right, well, at the very least, you could be in this thing up through the final few days of the year, which we're happy about around here, Jack. It keeps things interesting for us here on Snakes territory. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, we could be singing a totally different tune come Monday morning. I mean, they've got a game tonight. They've got a game on Sunday. They got to win at least one of the next 2 to just keep winning series. I mean, really, that's all you can do. You can't depend on sweeping teams left and right. But if you can win 2 out of 3, they got to win at least one of the next 2 games. And then they go up to San Francisco and play the Giants for 3. And they'll have a chance to get ahead of the Giants if they can do that. So that's where it's at. I mean, let's just see what happens over the next 5 games. And we'll have a better idea. And we'll be back talking to everybody about this in 48 hours to just see, where they stood.
It is worth mentioning, I'll bring the standings up here one more time, that the Giants are also ahead of the Diamondbacks still and are playing really good baseball lately. They're up to 72 and 69. I want to say I saw they've won 9 of their last 10 games. Yeah, they've won 5 in a row and 9 of their last 10. Their run differential is well into the positives now, plus 28. I guess Rafael Devers finally being Rafael Devers for the Giants has been a really big part of that. But certainly other guys on that team have stepped up as well. So, it's not just D-backs versus Padres. It's D-backs needing to make up ground against the Giants. But as you said, they also have some games coming up here against San Francisco. So they control their destiny to an extent here in these final few weeks.
Exactly. And that's at this point, look, they were 51 and 58.
Yeah.
I think heading into the trade deadline at the end of it. There were 7 games under 500. Now they're dead even 500. So, it's surprising. We didn't expect this. I kind of said over and over, look, with this bullpen, it's going to be hard to get on a run. And truth be told, I mean, it is the bullpen that kept them from getting on an even more impressive run, because there's several, blown saves in games that they really should have won. In that, I keep going back to that Colorado series and losing those last 3. I mean, that was the gut punch. Just like last year, we kept pointing back to losing that game in Milwaukee. If the D-backs fall short here, there's going to be a lot of games and times that people want to point back to. But for me, right now, if it ended today, it was the inability to win 3 out of 4 and instead lose 3 out of 4 against the Rockies that makes the difference as far as just how much belief I have in this team to get there.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks were 51 and 58 as of the trade deadline. That was their record on July 31st, and they are 20 and 13 since then. So really impressive. Will it actually wind up with them playing in the postseason? Probably not. The odds are still very, very much stacked against them, but they're keeping us interested. They're definitely making things interesting here in these final few weeks. So we're going to wrap up today's show with some injury updates, the latest news on Lourdes Gurriel Jr., as well as an update on Andrew Hoffman, a pitcher they acquired at the trade deadline. Some not great news there, and we'll talk about those guys on the other side of this break.
FT fam, designer clothes can be expensive. but we want our clothes to look good. We want to feel good. We want them to be affordable. And Kratz, if you tell me that I can wear a t-shirt that looks like it's tailored, but it's not actually tailored, and it just comes that way, then sign me up for True Classic.
Have to. You got to sign up for it because these shirts are soft, they're thin, they're durable, and they're very versatile. You can wear them to the gym. You can wear them out to a nice dinner. Let's get after it because these shirts are the real deal.
They are. Check it out. I've got one of the performance ones. It's a nice blue, fits well. I can go to the gym. I can go out. I can do FT in a shirt like this. FT fam, there's a reason why True Classic has sold over 25 million shirts to more than 5 million customers. And they are racking up over 200,000 5-star reviews. See for yourself with our exclusive link at trueclassic.com/foul to save. That's trueclassic.com/FOUL.
Well, Jack, it wouldn't be the 2025 Arizona Diamondbacks if we weren't talking about some rough injury news. And here we are once again. As Lourdes Gurriel Jr., the news is out at this point. He suffered a torn ACL here in the past week. And now we have some clarity on his timeline, Jack. It sounds like it's going to be maybe in the 10 to 11 month range.
That's what Torrey indicated. He went through and said, yes, there are some players such as Kyle Schwarber. He was out 6 months, and he pointed to Ronald Acuna Jr. The first time he went through, he was back in 8 months. But he said, based on everything that he's heard, and plus his own research, and he kind of joked about Dr. Google, but the normally very optimistic Torrey, the normally never willing to put a timeline on anything, Torrey Lovello, when it comes to injuries, he just does not like to speak to that. Said he thought it would be about 10, 11 months. So we're talking about July or August of next year before Lourdes is back to full speed and able to play. Now, there's a potential maybe he could come back as a DH and not have to play the outfield much. That might help things a little, speed things up a little bit. I'm speculating there. I just was thinking about him talking about coming back to full strength. So, perhaps Lourdes comes back and spends most of his time in the DH slot sometime around the time that we're hoping that A.J. Puck and Justin Martinez and Corbin Burns come back. So it's just another guy that we talked about last time where, you're looking at trying to stay alive in the race until the next year's trade deadline. And if you're in it, you go ahead and buy and know that you're also getting maybe some guys coming back from injury. So we'll see where that goes. But really tough break for him. By the way, Lourdes is still sorting between two different doctors, a Dr. Cole in Chicago and Dr. Neil Alatrich in Los Angeles. As of yesterday, he hadn't decided which of those two surgeons were going to perform the surgery and exactly what day, but it's imminent. We're going to hear about it probably by early next week that he had his surgery. So that was the deal on Lourdes. And then Andrew Hoffman, who we've talked about several times recently. He had that mysterious disappearance where he wasn't in Reno, but he wasn't listed on the development list or the injured list, despite having been optioned like August 18th, I think it was.
Yeah. Right.
And he hadn't pitched in 2 weeks. And so finally, Torrey said to us yesterday that actually Hoffman had been on the development list. Well, Hoffman was pitching 2 nights ago for Reno against Tacoma. And during his outing, he could be seen flexing his fingers and shaking out his hand. And he actually pitched to several more batters. I think he threw 10, 11 pitches after that first seeming indication of not feeling very well. He was removed mid at bat. He was behind in the count 3-0 through a strike. And then that was it. The trainer came out and walked him off the field. Well, the diagnosis is posterior elbow discomfort, which could mean a lot of different things. And he's getting imaging. He was on his way back to Phoenix as of yesterday and coming back to work with the doctors here. And I'm sure he'll be getting imaging, and we'll see what the deal is there. Hopefully it's not a serious injury that's going to require surgery. We just don't know yet. But Andrew Hoffman's season's over.
It's unfortunate news. You certainly hope that this isn't a big impact, doesn't have a big impact on him going into next year as well. But yeah, just par for the course for this 2025 team with guys' elbows falling off left and right. It's felt like wish the best for Andrew Hoffman moving forward. I know another name we've been kind of keeping an eye on, Jack, is Christian Mena, who has not pitched in quite some time. This is another pretty major arm injury that happened. What's the latest on Christian Mena that you've heard from the ballpark?
So it seems like his throwing program to get him back on the mound has just taken a little bit longer than we were hoping for. There seemed to be some optimism that he could get back before the end of the year, and that hasn't been ruled out yet. But he's still throwing off flat ground. He was out to 120 feet. So there's a progression. You throw 60, 90, 100, 110, 120. So he's throwing out to 120 feet. Usually once you reach that threshold, the next, if there's no pain, if there's no issues that come up, the next time out, you actually throw off a bullpen mound. Now, today's September 6th. So, you're talking about needing several bullpens, light BPs, maybe some simulated game action. Originally, there seemed to be some hope that Mena might get in a game before the end of the year, kind of one of those prove you're healthy situations where within the last 2-3 games of the year, you get in to throw an inning just to prove to yourself and prove to the organization that you're healthy. But at this point, I don't even know if there's enough time to do that. Certainly, if we're looking at those last 3 games in San Diego being meaningful, then they're not going to put him in that situation. So I don't expect to see Mena. I do expect to see Anthony DeSclafani back perhaps as soon as San Francisco. He threw a 30-pitch bullpen yesterday or the day before. Torrey made it sound like his return was imminent. I don't think he's going to be activated this weekend, but I think that there's a very good chance that he could end up with the club on the road trip, maybe as soon as San Francisco.
And DeSclafani was pretty solid for the Diamondbacks while he was pitching with them earlier this year. A 4.36 ERA, a 1.24 WHIP. Definitely serviceable numbers. Obviously, Nabil Crismatt has stepped into his spot in the rotation and done an outstanding job. So, it'd be interesting to see how the Diamondbacks would deal with the playing time there. Maybe one of those guys transitions to a bullpen role.
I'm almost sure it would be DeSclafani in the bullpen at this point. He'd have to go back into a long relief role. You can't bounce Crismatt out of the rotation with what he's done, unless he gets hit hard for a couple of starts or something, then you could do that. But also the fact that DeSclafani's been down a bit. I mean, he just threw a 30-pitch bullpen. You bring him back, you're going to use him in relief. I mean, they're not going to all of a sudden start him out throwing 60, 70, 80 pitches. His injury was a strained thumb, by the way. It wasn't elbow or arm, but, thumb's pretty important for pitchers trying to get going, and he's got to get built back up or you will hurt his arm. So I expect him to work out of the bullpen. They haven't said that. That's not official, but that's my expectation.
Well, the Diamondbacks have 2 more games against the Boston Red Sox this weekend. It is Brandon Pfaadt against Lucas Giolito on Saturday, and then on Sunday it is Brian Bayo going up against Ryan Nelson as the Diamondbacks continue to try to keep all of us interested. We'll see if they're able to push up over 500. It would be the first time they've been there, I think, dating back to July as well. So we'll see how far the Diamondbacks are able to get here. Jack is doing a great job showing off some of our merch over at snakesterritoryshop.com. Be sure to head over there and get some of your own merch. If you are interested in that sort of thing, we certainly appreciate it. This hat that I'm wearing, still not officially available, but we're getting there. Hopefully that will be available soon. Thank you to all of you for being with us in this episode of Snakes Territory. We really appreciate your time. As always, be sure to drop a like on this video here on YouTube. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. If you're joining us on an audio-only platform, those 5-star reviews go a long way, so we'd really appreciate it if you would consider doing that. You can find us on social media. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59, and our show is at Snakes Territory. And of course, Jack does a great job writing about this team over at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks, so be sure to check out his work there as well. Jack, anything else before we say goodbye on this Saturday morning?
just everyone have a safe rest of your weekend. I'm looking forward to spending a little time with my family tonight. I'll be back out at the ballpark tomorrow, but I'll be watching the game from my son's house.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you again to all of you for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory very, very soon.